Welcome to the deep dive. Here we immerse ourselves in fascinating sources, could be articles, research, books, you name it, and we really try to pull out the core insights, giving you a kind of shortcut to, well, understanding things more deeply.
Exactly. And today, we're diving into something really profound. It's this deep human curiosity, this, yearning for a direct connection, a direct experience of the divine.
Right, something that goes beyond just, say, following rules or attending services. It's about that intimate, personal encounter.
Precisely. So our mission today is a deep dive into Christian mysticism. We're going to explore the journeys, the insights, the, frankly, incredible experiences of three key figures: Augustine of Hippo, St. John of the Cross, and St. Teresa of Avila.
Yeah, giants of the tradition. We want to get into their personal stories, the real struggles they faced, both inwardly and outwardly, and the paths they mapped out towards, well, what they described as union with God.
And we'll be asking some key questions as we go. For you listening, think about, how do these mystics actually describe this journey? It's so personal, so internal.
hmm And what are the common threads? They lived centuries apart, different personalities, yet are there patterns? And maybe most importantly, what can we actually learn from them today about our own inner lives, about spiritual connection in our, let's face it, very busy, often secular world?
It's definitely food for thought. We're aiming for a contemplative feel here, sort of reflective, because these are deeply personal spiritual accounts. They happened long ago, but the core search, I think, still speaks to us.
Absolutely. So where do we begin this journey?
Let's start with Augustine of Hippo, a truly towering figure in early Christianity, late 4th, early 5th century, a time of huge change, Roman Empire declining, Christianity rising.
And his confessions. It's just extraordinary, isn't it? It feels so modern in its honesty about his own internal struggles.
It really does. And what makes it so relevant for our dive is how he grapples with this very human problem: sin, wrongdoing, and the tendency to, well, blame everyone and everything but himself.
Oh, yeah. He talks about that explicitly, doesn't he? That initial phase where he followed Manichaeism, which conveniently placed evil outside of him and some external force.
Exactly. It let him off the hook, so to speak. He writes, and this is just raw self-awareness, "I still was convinced that it wasn't we who sinned, but some alien property within us."
And it tickled my feelings of superiority to think I was outside the sphere of blame.
It's almost embarrassing in its honesty.
It is. He goes on, "It tickled me when I'd done something evil, not to testify truthfully that I had done it, so that you could heal my soul, as I had sinned against you. I was infatuated with excusing myself and accusing some other thing that was with me but wasn't me."
Wow. That feeling of being infatuated with excusing oneself. I think many of us can recognize that impulse, that desire to shift the blame.
Absolutely. And this quote, it really captures a pivotal moment for him, like moving from seeing sin as this external alien property to recognizing it as something internal, something he had to take ownership of.
So that's the first step, really, owning it. It seems to be the absolute prerequisite for him. This honest self-assessment, taking responsibility not just for actions, but for the inner state, the inner orientation. That's what opened the door, he felt, for God's healing.
He talks about God healing him, restoring him from sickness. Is he talking literally or?
It seems to be deeper than just physical illness, though that might have been part of it. He says, "God restored me out of that sickness, giving safety to your slave son." It feels like a fundamental restoration of his soul, a healing of that internal brokenness that came from, well, from not being honest with himself and with God.
So the healing is tied to that honesty, that self-awareness.
Exactly. And this leads him to a deeper understanding of God, not just as a distant creator or judge, but as the very source of being, the source of wisdom itself.
Right, he grapples with creation. How does he put it? Everything flows from the fullness of your goodness.
Yes. And he says even the still rudimentary and unformed things, the potential, the chaos before form, even those depended entirely on God's wisdom, they came into being because of you and wouldn't fail to exist because of that divine origin.
It's a profound sense of reliance on the divine for absolutely everything.
Everything. And he even makes this interesting distinction, suggesting that a spiritual being, even without a form, was superior to what it would have been as a material object with a form.
What do you think he means by that? That the inner spiritual reality is somehow more real or higher?
It points towards that, doesn't it? That the internal non-physical aspect of existence, even in its potential state, holds a greater value, a closer connection to the divine essence than the formed material world. It's like our true home, our true estate. is internal spiritual connected to God's wisdom.
Okay, so Augustine's journey really gives us these foundational steps. Confronting the self, taking responsibility, moving away from blame, recognizing our dependence on the divine for healing and even existence. It's like clearing the ground, isn't it?
Beautifully put. He clears the ground. He establishes the necessity of that internal work, that purification through self-honesty. And that really sets the stage perfectly for someone like St. John of the Cross, who takes that idea of purification into, well, much more radical territory.
Radical is definitely the word that comes to mind with St. John of the Cross. Late 16th century Spain, right? Working alongside Teresa of Avila on the Carmelite reform.
That's him, the second friar of the New Reformation, as he was known. And his contribution, especially the concept of the dark night, is just, well, it's intense and often deeply misunderstood.
Yeah, people hear dark night of the soul and think it just means having a bad time spiritually, like depression or doubt. But he's much more specific, isn't he? He talks about two distinct nights.
He does. Crucially distinct. First, there's the night of sense. This is where the spiritual seeker starts losing all the sweetness and consolation they used to find in prayer and spiritual practices.
So the good feelings dry up.
Completely. He calls it a time of aridities and temptations. The soul feels a lack of strength and of sweetness. It genuinely feels like God neither hears it nor pays heed to it.
That sounds awful. Like your connection is just gone.
It feels that way. The person can neither pray nor pay attention during services, maybe even struggles to focus on everyday things. It's a deep, internal dryness. But the purpose, John argues, is crucial.
Which is?
To purge the soul of its attachment to those good feelings, to the sensory comforts of religion, to stop seeking spiritual pleasure for its own sake and learn to see God alone, even in dryness. It purifies the appetites.
Okay, so it's detaching from the rewards of spirituality to
Right.
focus on the source. That makes sense, but it sounds incredibly hard. And then there's the second night, the night of the spirit.
Yes, and this one is significantly more profound and, frankly, more painful. If the night of sense purges the outer sensory level, the night of spirit purges the very core of the soul, the intellect, the memory, the will.
How does that manifest? He uses this phrase, substantial darkness.
He does. This darkness, being felt in the deepest substance of the spirit, seems to be substantial darkness. It means it's not just a mood or a feeling. It feels like the very essence of your spiritual being is plunged into darkness, into unknowing.
That sounds terrifying. Is it meant to be punishment?
Not according to John. He's adamant it's not punishment, but a necessary, even loving purification required for the highest union with God. He says, the divine contemplation assails the soul with a certain force in order to strengthen it and subdue it.
Assails it, like an attack.
It feels like one, yes.
Yeah.
But the goal is to break down the soul's natural ways of operating, to make room for the divine. The intellect, for instance, our way of understanding through reason and logic.
Yeah.
It must be purged and annihilated as to its natural light to unite with divine wisdom. Our normal understanding has to be brought actually into darkness. So a higher divine light, which seems like darkness to our limited minds, can take over.
So it's not about learning more in the usual sense, but about unlearning our reliance on our own intellect, letting go of the need to figure God out.
Precisely. It's a radical letting go. And the same applies to the will. Our affections, our desires, they must be purged and annihilated of attachment to whatever is not God.
Everything, even good things.
Everything that isn't God himself sought for his own sake. The goal is to reach a state of divine affection and most lofty delight, which requires stripping away all lesser loves, all self-centered desires. He describes the soul in this process as being exhausted, withered, and thoroughly tried in the fire of this dark contemplation.
Exhausted, withered, tried in fire. It sounds like utter desolation, a complete stripping away of the self.
It is. It's a crucible. But here's the paradox, and it's central to John's teaching. Somehow, in the midst of all this, the soul journeys securely in darkness.
Securely. How can that level of pain and confusion feel secure? That seems completely counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it? But the security comes because of the darkness, in a way. This dark contemplation, while agonizing, is also purifying and strengthening the soul at its core.
How so?
Because it burns away all the impurities, the attachments, the self-will. The soul develops what John calls a genuine determination and an effectual desire to do naught which it understands to be an offense to God, and to omit to do naught that seems to be for his service.
Ah, so its focus becomes absolutely singular, only on God.
Exactly. All its energies are recollected from all things else, focused purely on pleasing God. It's in this state, stripped bare but utterly oriented towards God, that the soul goes forth from itself and from all created things to the sweet and delectable union of love of God, in darkness and secure.
So the security isn't about feeling good, it's about being rightly oriented, having nothing left to cling to but God.
That's the heart of it. The darkness removes all false securities, leaving only the true one. And he says the soul navigates this using three essential virtues as its guide, its disguise, or three colors for union: faith, hope, and charity.
Right. How do they function in this darkness?
Each one performs a specific kind of voiding or emptying of a faculty of the soul. Faith voids and darkens the understanding as to all its natural intelligence.
So faith isn't about intellectual certainty here.
Quite the opposite. It's about trusting beyond understanding, letting go of our need to grasp God intellectually, which prepares the understanding for union with divine wisdom. It's like trusting the stars when your map is useless.
Okay. And hope.
Hope voids and withdraws the memory from all creature possessions. It detaches the memory from clinging to past comforts or future expectations tied to the world. It orients the memory towards God alone, preparing it for union with God.
Letting go of the past and the future, in a sense.
In a very radical sense, yes.
Yes.
And finally, charity, or love the driving force. Charity voids and annihilates the affections and desires of the will for whatever is not God, and sets them upon Him alone. It's this all-consuming love that purifies the will and unites it directly with God.
Faith darkens the intellect, hope empties the memory, charity purifies the will. It's a complete overhaul, an emptying to be filled.
It's incredibly radical. Annihilation of the self as we know it, to make space for the divine. And this intense process, this crucible described by St. John, leads us quite naturally to his contemporary and collaborator, St. Teresa of Avila. She provides a kind of map of the destination, the inner place where this union finally occurs.
Ah, Teresa. She seems maybe a bit more accessible. Her writing style, perhaps.
Often considered so, yes. Very practical, direct, even humorous at times. William James, the psychologist we sometimes draw on, had a fascinating take on her. He called her one of the ablest women in many respects of whose life we have the record.
High praise. What did he admire?
Her powerful intellect of the practical order, admirable descriptive psychology, a strong will, talent for leadership and business, a buoyant disposition, and a first-rate literary style. Quite the combination.
Definitely. But Jakes also added something intriguing, didn't he? He mentioned a curious flavor of superficiality about her genius from a secular view. How do we square that? An able woman with superficial genius.
That's a great point to unpack. I think James, looking from his pragmatic, psychological, maybe slightly skeptical viewpoint, saw the descriptions of visions, raptures, levitations, the more overtly supernatural stuff, and perhaps found them less compelling than her practical wisdom or psychological insights. From a purely secular, empirical lens, those extreme experiences might seem superficial or even pathological.
So he valued the practical outcomes more than the mystical experiences themselves.
Possibly. He was very focused on the fruits of religious experience. But for someone on the spiritual path, Teresa's ability to describe these incredibly deep, often ineffable states, to provide a map like the interior castle, is anything but superficial. It's profoundly insightful and guiding. Her genius was making the mystical path understandable, relatable, and navigable.
Right. And the interior castle is her great metaphor for that path, isn't it? The soul is a castle.
Exactly. A castle made of diamond or crystal with 7 main sections or mansions. Each mansion represents a stage deeper into the soul, closer to the center where God dwells. It's a journey inward.
From the outer courts to the king's chamber, essentially. And as you go deeper...
As the soul progresses, purifies itself, grows in prayer and virtue, she says that in the deeper mansions, the poisonous creatures, temptations, distractions, worldly attachments, seldom enter, and if they do, they prove quite harmless.
So you build up a kind of spiritual immunity. The stuff that used to derail you loses its power.
That's a great way to put it. Inner peace and connection become stronger than the outer disturbances. But Teresa is very clear, and this is crucial. These deeper experiences, the favors God grants in these inner rooms, they aren't rewards for being holy.
Oh, how does she frame it?
She insists God grants these favors then, not because those who receive them are holier than those who do not, but in order that His greatness may be made known. It's about God revealing himself, not about us earning brownie points.
That leads directly to her emphasis on humility, doesn't it? She seems quite wary of spiritual pride.
Immensely wary. She has that famous line, "Oh, humility, humility. I do not know why I have this temptation, but whenever I hear people making so much of their times of aridity, I cannot help thinking that they are somewhat lacking in it."
Huh, that's quite pointed. Don't brag about your spiritual struggles, basically.
Exactly. For her, true love isn't about feelings or experiences, even difficult ones like aridity. True love must not be wrought in our imagination, but must be proved by works. Show, don't just tell or feel.
Very practical, grounded. Even when she describes some really extraordinary experiences, like rapture.
Yes, the rapture or flight of the spirit. She describes it vividly, sometimes frighteningly. A rapid motion, the spirit transported with a speed which fills it with fear. Initially, she says, the soul isn't even sure if it's from God.
Fearful speed. Does she mention the body being affected?
She does, though she said it's rare. Sometimes the body is transported as well as the soul. Imagine that. But the key isn't the drama of it.
What is the key then? The outcome.
Precisely. Despite the initial fear, the result is inward peace. And crucially, the soul becomes completely instructed in such great truths, has no need of another master. It's like a direct download of divine understanding.
So the experience itself might be overwhelming, but it leaves behind profound peace and knowledge.
Exactly. And she argues this lasting good fruit is proof it's not from the devil, because evil couldn't produce such enduring peace and truth. These raptures, these flights, they prepare the soul for the deepest state of all.
Which she calls the spiritual marriage. This is the goal, the seventh mansion.
This is the pinnacle, the seventh mansion, deeper than the spiritual betrothal experienced earlier. This is the ultimate, most intimate union.
How does she describe where it happens?
This secret union takes place in the deepest center of the soul, which must be where God himself dwells. And intriguingly, she adds, and I do not think there is any need of a door by which to enter it.
No door needed. So it's not like entering a place, but a state of being.
It seems so. And she stresses it's an intellectual vision, not something seen with the eyes or imagination. She compares it to how Christ appeared to the apostles after the resurrection, without entering through the door, simply being there and saying, Pax vobis, peace be with you.
So God appears directly within the soul center.
Yes, the soul spirit is made one with God, who, being likewise a spirit, has been pleased to reveal the love that he has for us. It's a union so profound, she says, that soul and God have become like two who cannot be separated from one another.
Like two who cannot be separated. That's incredibly intimate, emerging almost.
Emerging, yet individuality seems to remain. It's a mystery of unity and distinction. And this state has very tangible effects, very real fruits in a person's life.
What are those fruits? Is it just bliss, or does it change how you live?
It definitely changes how you live.
Yeah.
She says the soul attains a marked detachment from everything. Not indifference, but freedom from clinging. And alongside that, a desire to be always either alone or busy with something that is to some soul's advantage.
Detachment and service. Interesting combination.
And internally, no aridities or interior trials, but a remembrance of our Lord and a tender love for him, so that they would like never to be doing anything but giving him praise. The struggle of the dark night is over, there's sustained peace and love.
And William James noticed these practical effects too, didn't he?
He did. He emphasized that often someone might be physically weak or suffering before an ecstasy, but emerges full of health and admirably disposed for action.
Wow, so it's empowering physically and mentally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
James continues, the soul, after such a favor, is animated with a degree of courage so great that if at that moment its body should be torn to pieces for the cause of God, it would feel nothing but the liveliest comfort.
Incredible courage, fearlessness.
Yes, leading to heroic resolutions and what James calls a horror of the world, meaning not a hatred of creation, but a profound aversion to the world's superficial values, illusions, and attachments. It's a complete reorientation of priorities grounded in that deep inner union.
Okay, so we've journeyed with Augustine's self-awareness, John's radical purification, and Teresa's ascent to union. Looking across these three and maybe bringing in some other perspectives, what are the big connecting threads here?
Well, the most obvious one, I think, is this relentless focus on the internal journey. Despite all the differences in time and style, it's all about inner work, purification, surrender. It's not primarily about changing the outside world, but but transforming the inner landscape.
Right. And that theme of surrender, of letting go, it really resonates with more contemporary spiritual teachings too. I'm thinking of the untethered soul, which talks about how the ultimate trick is to not close.
Don't close your heart, your awareness.
Yeah. Learning to stay open even when things are difficult, being comfortable with pain passing through you. That sounds a lot like navigating those aridities and dark nights without shutting down, doesn't it? That willingness to feel without resistance seems key.
It absolutely does. And that practice of staying open, of letting experiences flow through you without clinging or resisting, leads to another fascinating connection: the discovery of the deeper self.
How so?
The untethered soul suggests that when you let go of identifying with the constant stream of thoughts, emotions, and experiences, you start to notice who is left.
And who is left?
What's described as awareness, consciousness, an intuitive sense of existence. This is called the self, the Atman, the soul. It's that core of pure being, the witness, which seems very close to what Augustine found when he turned inward, or the deepest center. Teresa talks about where God dwells.
So beneath the turmoil, there's this unchanging core of awareness, the true self. That connects really well with Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now, too. He talks about the invisible inner body.
The doorway into being.
Exactly, into life unmanifested. He says through this inner body, this felt sense of aliveness within, you realize you're inseparably connected to this unmanifested one life. Birthless, deathless, eternally present. You are forever one with God.
It's another way of describing that direct internal connection the mystics experienced. Not through thought, but through presence, through accessing that deeper dimension within. It bypasses the need for external validation or even complex theology in a sense. It's experiential.
And Tolle also touches on something that might help understand Teresa's no-door-needed idea, the nature of reality itself.
You mean the idea that matter isn't as solid as it seems?
Yeah. He points out that physics tells us physical bodies are nearly 100% empty space, that the solidity of matter is an illusion. If that's true, then the idea of a non-physical spiritual union happening directly in the center of the soul becomes less weird, maybe, more plausible.
It certainly shifts the perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That the physical isn't the ultimate reality, then the spiritual, the internal, might be far more fundamental, more real. The mystic's inner journeys could be seen as explorations of this deeper, more essential reality, the life unmanifested.
And the culmination of these journeys, the ultimate fruit across these different perspectives, seems to consistently land on love, unconditional love.
Absolutely. A Course in Miracles emphasizes this, calling the call for God, the call to the unlimited, urging love without condition. It suggests our natural state, obscured by fear and illusion, is boundless love.
Which echoes what the untethered soul describes as the outcome of doing this inner work. Eventually, peace and love will run your life. You'll feel everything at a deeper level and understand there's an ocean of love behind all of this fear and pain.
That ocean of love, it sounds very much like the state of divine union, the spiritual marriage Teresa described, where love is the constant reality, not just a fleeting emotion. It's the atmosphere the soul breathes.
And again, William James, with his pragmatic eye, saw the power of this. He argued we should idealize and venerate conversion experiences if their fruits for life are good.
He saw that these mystical states weren't just subjective highs, they could profoundly reshape character. He noted they can enrich it marvelously. Sometimes a single experience might abolish at a stroke certain imperfections and leave the person adorned with virtues and loaded with supernatural gifts.
Real observable change. Virtue, courage, peace.
Exactly. And he also noted the personal indifference to poverty that could result.
Yeah.
Not necessarily becoming poor, but being freed from the fear of poverty, from the grip of materialism. This freedom allows someone to imperturbably bear witness to the Spirit.
To live from that deep inner connection without being swayed by worldly pressures, that sounds like real freedom.
It's the freedom that comes from finding your source and security within, in that union with the divine, rather than in external circumstances.
So, wrapping this up, we've traced these incredible paths. Augustine's foundational self-reckoning, St. John's terrifying but necessary descent into the dark night, St. Teresa's ascent through the interior castle to union, themes of purification, letting go, surrender, finding security in darkness, and finally this profound, life-altering union.
And what's striking is how these journeys, centuries old, still speak so powerfully about the potential for human transformation. They remind us that maybe the deepest answers aren't found by rearranging the furniture outside, but by exploring the vast territory within.
They really challenge us, don't they, to consider if maybe there's more to reality than what we usually perceive. If a direct experiential relationship with the divine is possible, one that purifies us and fills us with a different kind of strength, a different kind of love.
It's a radical path requiring immense courage and surrender.
So here's a thought to leave you with, something to mull over. How much of your own energy, day to day, goes into trying to manage the outside situations, people, outcomes? And how much attention do you give to exploring, as the untethered soul puts it, the part of you that seems to have so many problems with reality?
What might happen if you gently started to turn inward, exploring that potential ocean of love the mystics and other traditions speak of, remembering that ultimately perhaps only you can deprive yourself of anything truly essential?
Maybe just take a moment sometime today. Stop. Take a conscious breath. And just notice gently what's happening inside, without judgment, without needing to fix anything.
In that quiet space of awareness, that inner stillness, who knows what you might begin to discover about that deeper self, that soul, that spark of the divine that resides right there within you.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the profound journeys of the Christian mystics.
Until next time, keep exploring.